5:09. Now you may be screaming when you get a parking fine notice through your door. Thinking, what? Parking can be one of the most stressful parts of a trip to the shops, can't it? Finding change for the machine, downloading apps to get a ticket online. Oh, I had a faff with that before Christmas. And it's often all against the clock. Private parking firms have pledged to update their rules to ensure drivers aren't penalised if they don't pay to park within 5 minutes. It comes after the high-profile case of Rosie Hudson, who was taken to court last year after accumulating a fine of nearly £2,000 for taking more than 5 minutes to pay for parking. Scott Dixon, aka the Complaints Resolver, is a consumer and motoring disputes expert and joins me now. Good to chat to you again, Scott. Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you too, Tony.
Now, how can people avoid being caught out with this? It seems to be happening more than ever.
Well, this 5-minute rule, it should be abolished, Tony. And within the industry code of practice, there is a 10-minute grace and consideration period. And that is to give you time to read the terms and conditions and decide whether you want to enter into the contract or not. And it's important to stress that a private parking operator cannot fine you. They issue park and charge notices for an alleged breach of contract for parking on private land, and it looks like a fine. Only councils can fine you, and they issue penalty charge notices for infringements on public highways, like parking in a bus lane or on double yellow lines. And to avoid it, it's the ANPR cameras that are the problem, because as soon as you pass an ANPR camera, the clock starts ticking. And if you get caught up in a traffic jam and you can't find a space, you have problems with the Wi-Fi signal. Like in Rosie's case, for example, she did eventually pay for every parking for every day that she was parked on that car park, but she had problems paying. And these parking charge notices started racking up. And it's totally unfair. There was no breach of contract because she was able to prove that she paid. And the one and only parking charge notice that she paid, I reviewed her court papers, and the one and only parking charge notice that she paid was issued more than 14 days after the parking event, and she didn't have to pay it at all.
Right, because that is that the limit, 14 days?
Well, that's the time span for to hold the keeper liable on parking charge notices under Schedule 4 of the Protection of Freedoms Act 2012, and nobody really knows this. And the private parking operator deliberately stripped out any reference to that legislation, issued the parking charge notice late, and she paid it without realising that she didn't have to.
So if you get any of these notices, it's worth it investigating and actually fighting?
Yeah, so the first thing you need to do is check the dates. So if it's more than 14 days after the parking event, there is no keeper liability. You can't ignore it. But what you need to do is appeal without identifying the driver. So you don't say I or we, because you're inadvertently transferring liability to the driver. You've got to be very cute with your wording and say, there is no keeper liability. Your notice has been issued late. It's a breach of Schedule 4 of the Protection of Freedoms Act 2012. Your only option is to cancel it or give me an appeal code so I can escalate it at your expense.
Is the industry at the moment on the side of the motorists, particularly older motorists? Say if you haven't got a smartphone to download any of these apps, or say the machine isn't working, you end up stuck.
Yeah, and it is a big problem. I don't use apps for the reasons cited by other motorists. With Wi-Fi signals, and there's the convenience fees as well. And there's nothing convenient about it half the time. And it's an additional charge that's levied within the price of the ticket, and it's split as an additional income between the local authorities and the private parking operators. And I don't think it's fair. And it's decimating trade within towns and cities. And it's no coincidence that retail parks are thriving with free parking and easy access, whereas towns and cities aren't.
But is the 5-minute grace period a fair compromise, or should we be lobbying, well, actually, you're supposed to give us 10 minutes anyway?
I think it should be 10 minutes anyway, because there is a 10-minute consideration and grace period within the code of practice. And what they're saying is that's to give you time to get out of the park. But it's not, strictly speaking. It's to give you time to read the terms and conditions and the signage. to decide whether you want to park or not. And so long as we have these trade associations marking their own homework, we're never going to have a level playing field for motorists to work within. And this is why we need a UK government code of practice with teeth to create that level playing field that motorists need.
Scott, good to get your insight. Thank you very much. That's Scott Dixon, aka the Complaints Resolver, as a consumer and motoring disputes expert. Now, in December, the parking company dropped its case against Rosie, but said the car park signage was clear about the 5-minute rule. And today the firm's been back in touch with the BBC to say it still disputes Rosie's version of events and says on one occasion she took 3 hours to pay for parking. Interesting. But have you ever been a faff for you into that, just going for a family meal the other day in a car park that I hadn't parked in before, gone to the machine, wanted to pay by card, so I don't think it accepted change, wouldn't take the card, it just wouldn't register payment. So, to stand there in a cold car park, downloading an app, because it didn't use one that I had. Well, in fact, that took me more than 5 minutes, but thankfully I've not seen a letter yet to say that you haven't parked. But, I think that was more a cancelled car park. But if it comes to, I shall be disputing it. But downloaded it, paid for it eventually, but can't half be a faff. Does it actually dictate where you park, whether you've got these apps or not, or whether you can manage to get a space in that particular car park? It will take you more than 5 minutes to find one. What does it determine where you shop, which is not great for some of the businesses, is it?